Harley Quinn returned this week after the holiday break with a brand new episode entitled Being Harley Quinn, and yes, that is indeed a Being John Malkovich reference. I'm currently Being Cape Joel, your host, and by now you've probably heard this before. This is the video series where I give my thoughts on the episode that was and shout out any Easter eggs and references I can find, kinda like I just did. Now, picking up from where last week's episode left off, Poison Ivy is getting kicked out of her apartment by Cy Borgman, and as such, she and Harley are evil lair hunting. You got all the classic types of supervillain dwellings, big volcano like something out of a frickin' Bond movie, even gently used lairs like a Sub-Zero Chuck E. Cheese knockoff that Mr. Freeze had to unload. I can only assume all the creepy carnivals, abandoned candy stores, and joke shops are already in use by the Joker. Picking up the perfect lair is proving hard for poor Harley because even though she's been doing the solo villain thing for a minute now, she's still not totally sure what her brand is. What is she about? Heck, her clown gimmick is still so tied in with the Joker, she can't even answer for herself and ends up having a bit of a mental shutdown over it. To save her from herself, Ivy and the rest of her team opt to take a journey into her mind to help Harley slay her inner demons. They do this, I should add, while wearing shirts from the Suicide Squad movie, the Suicide Squad in this universe being a team that Harley says keeps wanting her to join. A funny reference given Harley's strange history with the team. Basically, she got added to the book fairly recently in the New 52 era in an attempt to further solidify her as a solo anti-hero, despite the fact that she had never been a member of the team before. This also means that she basically got to headline the Suicide Squad movie despite the fact that she was the newest member at the time. Now, once inside Harley's mind palace, the show actually buckles down and starts doing a fair amount of character work, something I feel the show does a lot of but never actually gets credit for. You see, as far as this series is concerned, Harley was already nuts long before she actually met the Joker. Dysfunctional family that looks like the Married with Children family? Check. Antisocial, sometimes violent behavior? Double check. Ooh, and my personal favorite, history of stalking and imagining relationships. Oh, that's a triple check right there, implying that while she may not have become a clown, Harley was still very much on her way to becoming a super criminal all the same. But not all of her memories seem right. For one, the famous acid bath, again taken from the New 52 era of comics as part of her new retcon origin story and then recreated in the Suicide Squad movie, seems to be missing a very important piece of itself. And wouldn't you just know it, in trying to uncover this repressed memory, Harley ends up activating the security protocol for her brain, setting off an army of super creepy mini Harleys color-coded in her trademark red, black, and white. It's a very nice visual touch. But that's not all. While our protagonists are stuck in the mind, their bodies are limp on the floor. Meaning that Cy Borgman pretty much assumes that they're all dead, and using some of his old super spy contacts, again something totally taken from the Palmiotti Connor era of comics, decides it's time to get rid of the bodies. Helping him out is his old friend and maybe even former love interest Gelda, who both looks like Rhea Perlman and turns out to be voiced by her too. Wow, what a good get. This means our protagonists need to both escape the mind and work against the clock before they all end up getting cremated. Escaping too means taking a trip through Harley's subconscious, which should come as no surprise is still totally ruled by the Joker. Heck, they even seek to imply in this episode, because Harley's dad was a low-life scumbag too, that her love of the bad boy type might very well stem from her own deep-seated father issues. Speaking of Harley and the men in her life, Quinn and her crew were actually helped along in their journey by none other than Harley's original girlhood crush, Frankie frickin' Muniz from Malcolm in the Middle. This joke is funny on its face, but it gets even better if you know anything about how Muniz has spent the last couple of years, be it pulling a gun in an argument with his girlfriend, to this damn picture right here that he's never gonna live down, nor should he, to the fact that he also now claims to suffer from a rare type of amnesia, which means he doesn't even remember making Malcolm in the Middle. Proof positive that Harley has always kind of had a thing for questionable psychosis. Before everyone can leave, though, Harley must find the truth of her origin, and the answer is pretty much exactly what you might have guessed. The Joker never pushed her in the acid to begin with. She did so willingly because she was weak, stupid, codependent, and everything she has now grown to realize is wrong. Hey, while we're on the subject, have I ever mentioned that I never liked the Harley gets an acid bath thing, mainly because I think it cheapens the Joker surviving of the acid bath? This revelation proves to be a really hard pill for her to swallow, but because this is a comic book story, you never have to keep the cards you're dealt. Don't like your origin? Don't worry, you can just retcon it. Harley didn't start with the acid bath. As far as she's concerned, she only really started when she chose to walk away from the Joker. He didn't create her, she created herself, and she's gonna decide how the rest of her story goes. Honestly, I thought this was all really great stuff for Harley. Hell, the comics to this day still struggle with the very questions posed by this episode. Who is Harley? Why does she do what she does? It might be an overly simple answer, but sometimes the simple answers are the best. It also hits home the idea that the Harley Quinn of this show, while inspired by the comics and the movies and past animated incarnations, is something completely new unto herself, and I like that. Heck, Harley's development is even rewarded too, as her and her crew manage to find their own lair after all, and a new teammate to boot in Cyborgman, who's getting back into the swing of things following his whole attempted corpse disposal. And so that was Being Harley Quinn, and honestly was a very different type of episode. Oh, make no mistake, it was still very funny, but the goal here seemed to actually be growing Harley as a person and a character more than making with the laugh, and I think it's cool that the show can aim its sights a little higher every so often, and it proves more than anything that this show actually has more to offer than the superficial stuff like superheroes bleeding and swearing. I dug this one, and I get the feeling you all will too. So until we meet again, everyone, this has been Cape Joel. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I'll see you all again in the next video. Bye-bye.